but that mucosa is more than just epithelium. But the layer that faces the lumen is epithelium. What type of epithelium do we have within the esophagus? Do you remember? That's right. So the superficial most layer of the mucosa is going to be a stratified squamous epithelium. Is it keratinized or non-keratinized? It's a moist surface, so it's non-keratinized, whereas dry surfaces tend to have more keratinized. And with a non-keratinized, you can usually see nuclei all the way up to the surface like this. Does anyone remember what we call the layer of loose connective tissue that sits just deep to the epithelium here? The lamina propria. So deep to this is going to be a lamina propria, which is just kind of loosely packed fibers. Now, you're also going to see scattered lymphatic nodules. These are part of MALT. Remember we said MALT was mucosa-associated lymphatic tissue. So these little nodules that you see intermittently along the lamina propria are part of MALT. Now, also within this lamina propria, you're going to find occasional blood vessels. This might be kind of a vein here. And you might find arteries and capillaries and lymphatics. So you can find vessels, both lymphatic and arteries and veins and capillaries, and loose connective tissue and some lymphatic nodules. Okay? So, again, epithelium. And this next layer of the mucosa is the lamina propria. And then the third layer is a layer of muscle. It's typically a scant layer of smooth muscle, and it's called the muscularis mucosae. Some people say mucosae. Okay? These three layers make up the mucous membrane, or mucosa. Now, sometimes you can see glands within a lamina propria. Glands that have ducts that secrete onto the surface of the epithelium. Deep to the mucosa, the submucosa has a denser form of connective tissue. When we say dense, remember, we mean that the fibers are more densely packed. Oftentimes, if there are glands, they're located within the submucosa. We said they can be you can see glands in the lamina propria, but more often you see glands within the submucosa. So these glands will look like this, perhaps. I see a cluster of these glands like this. And if you're lucky, you can see a duct that's moving up toward the surface from these glands. In addition, remember, blood vessels are coming in from the outside. And so you may see blood vessels traveling through to reach the epithelium. So you can see blood vessels either longitudinally or in cross-section within the submucosa. You may see lymphatics. Okay. So this is the submucosa. Deep to the submucosa, you have a thicker layer of muscle called the muscularis externa. Typically, the muscularis externa is arranged into two layers. An inner circular layer That inner circular layer is going to encircle the lumen like this and travel in this direction. And then an outer longitudinal layer. Okay? So in this case, for instance, the circular layer may consist of smooth muscle cells that are seen either in oblique or longitudinal section, and then the longitudinal layer, we have the cells cut in cross section and running at you. So this double layer of muscle here would be the muscularis externa. Now, for the deepest layer, again, if this is the esophagus, it's simply going to be loose connective tissue with little pockets of fat. That would be called an adventitia. If instead, this was an intraperitoneal organ, like the jejunum or the ileum or the stomach, then what you would see is a mesothelium. Remember, a mesothelium is just a simple squamous epithelium that lines the serous membrane with some underlying connective tissue. Okay? In which case we'd call it a serosa. Now, I want to practice here. I want everybody to take out a microscope, and we're going to look at the 4 layers of the esophagus. Let's make it real.
Oh, come on. Okay, I'll just find another one. My sister will draw them.
Should draw them for me.
Just kidding. I mean, I don't know. I think she would. So,
Wow, all this and there's not a microscope in here.
one of her friends.
My Monday sucks. Well, I would thank you.
Now,
He needed
I want to point out something that's interesting
Yeah.
for the esophagus. When you look in the muscularis externa, the type of muscle that you see